In the contemporary world, loneliness has become a cultural metaphor. We observe the determining role of the media in culture creation, talk about hyper-anxiety media, the times of terrified communities and frenzied catastrophism. Functioning in mediatized reality, in which agenda setting is dominated by information about disasters, cataclysms or tragedies, lowers the sense of security and escalates anxious behavior. Contemporary technology users are immersed in the culture of social media's editable image. They are alienated, feel the unreality of the world and its disorder, and hopelessly look for identity and companionship. Presenting oneself, being visible, noticeable and heard became more important than the very content one wants to communicate. Without an audience, the narcissistic individual is unable to exist because it is attention that provides the social importance and approval that the narcissistic individual desires so strongly. Narcissism is a form of antisocial individualism, aversion to establishing deeper connections, and a form of self-affirmation and self-satisfaction. The desire for attention seems to be vital to maintain well-being, and utilitarian, instrumental relationships with others make one treat people as objects and objects as people. In the 1960s, the ELIZA program created by MIT's Joseph Weizenbaum gained worldwide fame for its use in the treatment of patients with mental disorders. The chatbot's success lay in the fact that patients consciously preferred to be deceived by a machine rather than assessed by a human. The mechanism of personification, the attribution of human traits and the elicitation of emotional responses during interaction with the program, was commonly revealed when interacting with ELIZA. When interactive toys, i.e. care requiring Tamagotchi, Furbies and robotic dolls, entered the US market in the 1990s, Sherry Turkle pointed out that our way of perceiving and defining animation was changing. The matter of biological life is no longer relevant to their young users. Children have opened up to ideas of biology as mechanics and mechanics as alternative biology by establishing close relationships with nurtured simulacra reciprocating their attachment. The need for care and nurturing that came with effective toys was a killer application preparing the ground for the era of bionic sensibility, while the creation of an opportunity to mourn artificial life was the crossing of an important threshold. The children, like ELIZA's testers, treated the effective toys as projection screens. Sherry Turkle called the propensity observed among the test subjects to be involved in creating an animating effect ELIZA effect. The willingness to engage with the inanimate was detected as a feature of the human mind that wants to fill in the gaps. Toys, giving the impression of being endowed with a mind, evoked feelings of care, attachment, gave the promise of constancy and immutability of relationships, and invited empathy which was, however, pure projection. The ELIZA effect describes an interesting phenomenon. It is relatively easy to convince people that a machine really thinks and gives meaningful answers, even if these answers are simply randomized from a pre-designed set. The simulation culture that is forming in virtual space is not only changing the style of conversation, but is remodeling our understanding of mind, body, and machine, leading to a new definition of life as communication and interaction. Recognizing the various points of contact between psychoanalysis and cognitive science, Sherry Turkle pointed out as early as the 1990s that autosuggestion is an important component of emotional well-being and that simulation culture has transformed the sensation of animation emanating from anthropomorphic images that appear vivid enough to evoke a sense of engagement and concern. The era of the artificial influencer with the introduction of voice assistants such as Amazon's Echo in the last decade, attitudes towards intelligent software have changed dramatically, opening the door to treating non-human entities as interaction partners, Eugene Bot, Samantha Bot. The market success of robotic toys such as Nexi, Cuddler, and Hugler has encouraged manufacturers to research, develop and commercialize an expanding product line. Today, we increasingly interact with agents of unclear ontological status. Among these, we can distinguish the following: avatars inhabited by humans, for example virtual YouTubers, VTubers, otherwise known as virtual streamers. Although most of them present fans with artificial, digital corporeality designed to be aesthetically appealing, their personalities and interactions with fans are real. Avatars controlled by artificial intelligence, AI, human simulating virtual robots, i.e., digitally embodied conversational machines, chatbots, i.e., products from soul machines or unique, having a dialogue system, chatbot engine, combined with an interactive 3D model. Static avatars, computer-generated images, CGI, of hyperrealistic digital embodiments of non-existent people. These subjectless images, interchangeably referred to as meta-humans, virtual beings, digital humans, artificial humans or CGI, computer-generated influencer, are gaining popularity by mimicking human interactions on social media. These anthropomorphic images exhibit human-like behaviors such as speech, gestures and movements. They can also simulate other human characteristics such as emotion, empathy, reasoning, planning, motivation, as well as memory development and use. Digitally embodied agents, although they are merely an image perceived through a screen, are changing the way we interact with technology. The anthropological approach focuses on the following questions: for what purpose and how they exist, how they interact and how they draw on the affordances offered by social media. They shape the worldview of the alpha generation, the youngest and struggling with loneliness, growing up in a computer-generated synthetic media landscape. Thanks to advanced computer graphics and image processing techniques, 3D scanners and artificial intelligence, anthropomorphic human simulating images produced by teams of specialists, programmers, artists, copywriters and marketing specialists, are increasingly being presented in digital spaces. A virtual human is a configuration of image and sound, described by a program, displayed in a defined medium, a simulation of a human created through the use of digital technology in visual and auditory dimensions, generated through the use of a specially designed program or group of programs. Digitally generated characters in the social media ecosystem are sometimes indistinguishable from people. They spread ideas and values by speaking out on current social issues, and influence lifestyles by giving interviews and appearing on the covers of magazines or in advertising campaigns. The task of their creators is to develop a persona, a personality with a life story, specific views, and a style of social media networking, which, presented attractively and enjoyably, will be an opinion former for the young audience active on the platforms. For virtual beings, the primary space in which their stories are developed and identities are built is social media, i.e., Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter or Facebook, which is, however, used more readily by millennials than Generation Z or Generation Alpha. Most fans of virtual idols are Generation Z. According to data collected by consultancy 2 Media, more than 70% of these followers are aged between 18 and 23. Virtually embodied, socially interactive agents use multimodal communication behavior to attract human attention and engage in simulated interactions. Artificial humans are widely used in design, human body motor research, battlefield simulations, and entertainment. A special subtype is virtual actors, i.e., digital doubles of people, virtual clones, living, now or in the past, in the real world. The digital character is designed by its creators for a specific purpose. Like any program or machine, it is supposed to perform a specific task, most often the role of a virtual influencer. An influencer is a person who, through the use of mass media, mainly the internet, communicates with the social world, becoming a point of reference for those receiving the broadcast message. An influencer is recognizable, has a group of fans, people who follow their activity, the so-called followers. Their message has a strong social impact regardless of whether they are perceived as a model of beauty, success and modernity, fitness and physical strength, humor, creativity and creative energy. The message usually takes the form of real-life stories in the form of photos and videos accompanied by commentary that ties the whole into a coherent narrative. The content that the influencer publishes is designed to attract the audience's attention. Its main feature is the attractiveness that characterizes both exceptional and controversial messages and those that are styled to be natural, sincere and spontaneous. The recipients of messages, the followers, may be guided by the influencer's opinion when choosing a particular product or service. For recommending a product, the influencer receives compensation from the manufacturer or distributor of the product in the form of money, goods, or services. In the campaigns of global brands such as Prada, Samsung, Porsche, Unilever, Calvin Klein, IKEA, and KFC, there is already a significant number of virtual, humanoid influencers challenging the boundaries between reality and virtual reality, the human and the non-human. The illusion is supported by a first-person narrative of life supporting the impression that the virtual entity is actually endowed with a consciousness, a personality, which allows fans to become deeply immersed, to connect with the character and to become involved. Influencers turn people's interests into their own form of cultural currency while promoting themselves and things loved by the general public, transforming narratives of non-human quasi-experiences into capital by combining them with sponsored content, posts about social justice, announcements of major events that people mark on their calendars, creating digital holidays to support the promoted brand's agenda. The creators of virtual beings, acting as influencers, help the audience to believe in the fiction by remaining unknown or only revealing themselves on specialized industry portals, i.e. Reblium, Virtual Humans, or Reallusion.